Welcome to The Pointy End. I'm Keith Sutherland. Today my guest is well-known personality, a media personality, I might say, Jonathan Ridnell. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thanks so much, Keith. Thank you for the big intro too.
That's okay. Now, you're usually on the other end of the microphone asking the questions, but I'm really pleased to be on this end of the microphone asking you questions
Which is
today.
why I've got the sweat beading on my forehead, because I'm nervous as heck.
As you should be, of course. No, you shouldn't. Now, 23 years you're in radio, ABC. You retired sort of Christmas Eve. What was the feeling like? I know I went to your send-off on radio. You'd already done your program and you were out there and you were a bit emotional, of course. But what was the feeling like? Was, oh God, my whole career has now come to an end. What happens in the future? Yeah. Or was it a relief having not to get up early in the morning? And I did read where you'll be able to put some time into the kids now, but they're probably grown up now, so that makes it a bit different. But what was that feeling the next Monday morning after you retired?
Well, the first Monday I woke up at 5 o'clock and didn't really get back to sleep. So I was out there checking computer stuff at that ungodly hour. But getting off air, and you reminded me of how I felt at that moment when they said, "Make a speech, Jonathan." And it was really such a mixed feeling, because I'd thought about, is it time to leave the ABC for about 3 years? But then again, the actual reality of it all, switching off a microphone and going out to a bunch of people saying, "We'll miss you," it was really hit you in the heart. And so it was real mixed feelings. I was kind of glad that I was going out on a high. I wasn't actually sacked. And on the other hand, you make some great friends. I've met people who've been listeners since I've gone saying, "We really miss you." And I said, "I don't actually know who you are, but thank you." So it's, mixed feelings. And some days I miss it a lot. You know, I'll be talking to you, say, Keith, and you say, "Oh, that'll be a good story." "Oh, it doesn't matter if it's a good story. I don't have to tell it anymore." So it's a funny feeling indeed.
Well, you can keep bringing in the news stories for us and wonderful stories, so we'd like to run with them. But Fiona Parker, who obviously is on there now, worked with you for 7 years, and she said you were a rare breed of boss and a good friend. And that's what came through at that last morning when the breakfast was on and talking about you, and ex-journalists, the news people and everybody else behind the scene were there sort of saying the same sort of thing. Rare breed, good boss, because it's hard to sort of distinguish between being a little bit firm but also being friends with the staff. But that came through pretty much loud and clear on that morning.
I've been blessed to work with great people, but the other thing is, when you're in a small team, I think if you counted everybody in that team, it was about 8. You can't be the boss who's a prick, because there's just no room for, if someone isn't doing their job, you have to find ways of getting them to do it without laying down the law and building walls, if you like. So I just have a good disposition for it, I suppose. And I always believe that, walk in somebody else's shoes before you really have a crack at them. Yeah. So, someone's having a bad day and you suddenly find out they were up all night with a sick baby, you cut them slack, as opposed to, I've never really had somebody be completely unprofessional for no reason at all. So, no, I've been pretty lucky.
Having looked back at that 23 years, there's got to be a highlight. And of course, conversely, I'll ask you about a low light. But what were a couple of your highlights in that period of time, whether you're breaking stories or whether the personality, someone in the studio, interview you did? What would be a couple of those? Okay,
it's a low light and a highlight at the same time, but I still remember the emergency broadcasting we did. And probably a highlight, as in we did it well, was Black Saturday. I think when Dave Lennon turned up with his ute full of pets, because his bushfire plan was to evacuate. So, we had dogs in the studio and cats in cages in the kitchen and chooks and a ute out the back. It was quite funny. But we actually got the fire talked about, I think about 10 minutes after it started. Someone in the CFA actually rang and said, "Bracewell Street," and said, "Where?" "The fire's at Redesdale, isn't it?" And the way that the CFA and the other emergency services were happy to ring us to tell us what was going on rather than the other way around was a total highlight about how good that relationship was. The feedback afterwards of having people living in Long Gully saying, "You saved my life." And you think, "No, we didn't. Of course not, but I'm very kind of you to say that." So it was a really gratifying time, and I'll call it a highlight, though it was horrible. The low light was probably about 10 years before. Do you remember the tornado that went through Eagle Hawk?
That's right. Yep.
And we didn't know about it till about 4 hours after it had happened, because, there's a blackout. That happens occasionally on a thundery day. And then when, I think it was the CEO of the City of Greater Bendigo rings you at 11 o'clock at night saying, oh my God, we need to get in touch with you. We've got a relief centre open. We need people to tell you about it. And I thought, what's going on? He says, the tornado. I said, sorry, I've been in bed since 8 o'clock because it was dark and there was no power. So that was a low light of emergency broadcasting, and that was really the kick in the pants that we needed to really get good at what we're doing. So other highlights, when John Howard was on the hustings in about 2002 or something, that was a lot of fun, being in a studio with the Prime Minister and 3 commercial camera crews, each saying, we want a live feed of this, we want to get into your jack field, and I only had room for 1. So during a 3-minute news bulletin, I was out in the production booth patching and doing all sorts of crazy stuff while the Prime Minister was getting his little ear thing in. And then on the way back in, and this is ABC News, leaping into the chair, tripping over a wire and letting rip a little expletive that you should never use in a studio. That was kind of funny because Mr. Howard, I'm sure, doesn't have people swear in front of him too often like that. So it's like, he went, oh, and I went, oh no. But the show went on.
Oh, I'm sure it did. A professional person like yourself. But going back to those 2 highlights and lowlights, you can put them both into one. It was great because I was lucky enough to be involved on the tail end of those with fundraising activities like the bushfire Black Saturday, 420,000 raised by this wonderful community. The same with the other one, we had an event out at the Foundry Arms Hotel fundraising for the tornado for the Salvation Army at the time. So Bendigo people really come to the fore at these sorts of things. When there's a disaster, I think Bendigo people, I'm sure smaller communities, but for some reason that community spirit, listening to the ABC, and there's been a fair bit of criticism with some changes that have happened now, but at least you're getting it first, you're getting the message out there, and everyone goes straight to the ABC to find out what's happening in our community when there's an emergency.
Well, it's funny, we don't talk about ratings at the ABC terribly much, or sorry, I'm no longer with the ABC. They don't talk about ratings too much, but what is the point in making fantastic shows if no one's listening? So engaging with the audience is always important, giving them something back, if you like, for their faith in you. And yeah, this is a really giving community, and it has been so easy to, when you get tapped on the shoulder, you just say, what can I do? Just say. And you would probably know that pretty darn well yourself.
Moving on from that, basically that people, I think, tend to forget because, as you said, you're part of the community. No one will ever forget your dawn services, working with the RSL and all the other things you do. Yourself, Brian Coughlin and other people in radio are called upon all the time. It's not only you have to get up early in the morning, but you're called upon at night time to MC this event, that event. I was only at the weekend, Scott's Day Out. There you are, MCing function up at the gallery. So this sort of happens, and I think people tend to forget just what your role is. You can't say to people, no, I'm sorry. When you're good at something, you have to do it. And you become part of that community, but it's also a drain because it takes you away from your family. You want time out, but you don't get it when you're a personality like yourself.
I don't know about you. One of the things I love about doing, say, a dawn service is that there's that collective getting together and there's a special energy there. And that's what really is amazing. You come out of that and you think it's really sombre, and we've just remembered some terrible, terrible things that have happened to Australians overseas. But at the other side of it is we did it well. So there's that high of a team achieving, but you also get that sense of that collective energy of a large group of people, and that buoys you up, and that keeps you going for a couple of days at least. And at the other end, you know, when you're doing something like the, what was a weeknight? I do the Bendigo Instrumental Music Program, the BIMP, and this is a great program that's been happening for 20 years, and it's a music camp, and they have a concert, and I'll MC it. Finishes at like 2 hours after my bedtime. But you go to bed feeling really good, you zonk out, and in the morning you've still got a bit of an adrenaline high that there are 200 students who've given their all for a concert, and again, it's just a fantastic thing to do. So sometimes my family missed me, of course, but most of the time, you know, they're so busy watching TV or catching up with friends.
And on mobile phones and everything else.
Sort of like, you know, oh, Dad, were you at Anzac Day? Someone just tweeted that you did this, and you think, I told you that at dinner last night. Yeah, so it's important. A bit like that.
That's right. Now, fast forward to now. You've had that radio career, stellar career. Now you're moving on in life. So what's happening for Jonathan Ridnell from here on in? And I believe you've got an announcement to make about a new career.
Very excited because In the last 7 weeks since I finished at the ABC, I've been seeing a life coach, believe it or not. Do you know Larry Windsor?
I do, yes.
Larry's a great operator, and she made me sit
certainly
down, fill out some forms and say, what do you really want to do with your future? And it came up with a few different things. I love working with young people. I've told you about the energy you can get from them. I really am committed to regional and rural Victoria. And also, I kind of am leaning towards some sort of education role. Go back and do a grad dip ed, 2 years of study, or apply for and get the job as General Manager of the Discovery Science and Technology Centre. And last week I was in a similar situation to this. I was sitting in front of 3 people asking me questions saying, why do you want Discovery? And I must have given them the right answers because I got the job and I start on the 22nd of February.
Well, that's an extension when you say you want to do a teaching role, Discovery Centre, science, all the things that you obviously love. Obviously, it's going through a transition period. They've got to get some funds in. You've got to be the man up front that brings in, gets to the community, asks for money. But it is an exciting thing, and it'd be such a disappointment to see the thing fold. But obviously, you've got a tenure there to make sure it doesn't happen, and with the support of council and, of course, Ian on the other end of it as well, so the trust. So, yeah, that's an exciting future.
I'm really excited, and to be honest, I'm coming in at the end of a heck of a lot of hard work. I think there are 5 or 6 new board members that came on board last July when the crowdsourcing came on to fund the shortfall between operating costs and what the income was. And they've worked so hard in the last 6 months to get a business plan together, to get a strategy together. And really, it's almost like, Jonathan, this is the plan, help us implement it, as opposed to, Jonathan, we're in crisis, help. So they know what the Discovery needs to do. I am in total agreement with that plan, and it's kind of going to evolve Discovery. We are fantastic at that primary school and preschool engagement and lighting that spark of interest in science and technology. But we're also looking at stronger partnerships with places like La Trobe. How does Discovery play an actual measurable role in the education of teachers or young, preschool teachers, child carers, that kind of stuff? Because we have the kids coming through, we need people to run programs, they can get part of their qualification, and let's face it, we get cheap labour. So there are some really exciting things that the board has already started to implement, and I hopefully will be there to take credit for it.
I'm sure you will. It's a win-win because we had Ian Hart in your position there some months ago when this was all just announced, and it was doom and gloom, and all of a sudden everyone got on the bandwagon, the mayor. But I see Dr. Carl, I believe, is also coming to town, so just want to mention that while we've got the opportunity.
Yes, please. Dr. Carl here in April, and if you're a Facebook person, just visit the Discovery page. All of the information is there, and we're at the Capitol, which is only 400 tickets. So if you want to go and enjoy some amazingly crazy science and conversation, Dr. Carl is your man. Be there.
Well, I love listening to him on radio and on television. He just makes things sound so easy and relaxed, and why don't I know this stuff? I don't. He's an expert.
That's right. Not to worry. It's great to talk to you, Dr. Keith.
Yes, thank you. Well, on that happy note, Jonathan, good luck with your new career. Well done on your past career, because you've done some incredible things in this community. So it's great for you to appear on the Pointy End program today. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for being so gentle.